leader, the Lola with the Nissan engine here, the Canadian entry that he's been driving with Scott Maxwell, but he is now back down pit lane, and that car, after the early problems, is having a pretty good run.
They had that early, as you mentioned, problem, and indeed they're back in front in the 6-7-5 category, and I mean, this is pretty much a brand new program for them, certainly, and doing a nice job. We're watching a good close battle on the track. One of the Cadillacs being chased hard by one of the Team Dragon Japanese entries with the Panoz, and there is David Donahue, who was brought in the number 53, currently third in the GTS division. It's still the 3 Vipers, 1, 2, 3, with the 22 Panoz has slipped into the overall situation between 9, 10, and 12 right there. But Donahue looks like he's sticking with it for another stint.
Yeah, that's right. He's a good fit boy. He's going out again.
Well, things continue here, certainly. The Audis just continue to rule at the front. A lot more racing coming your way in just a minute. We'll have some more announcers for you. We'll be back. Welcome back once again to Le Mans, and we continue to follow around the track the great drive by the Team Dragon Panoz entries as they are continuing to try and move up through the pack just a little bit, as well as the pursuit of the number 8 Audi. And here now into the pits, the number 52, second in the GTS division in the Viper, coming in for a stop as well. And I'll tell you, these Vipers, they're just bulletproof. We've seen the Vette struggle a little bit, other cars as well, and the Vipers really no problems whatsoever, Steve.
Absolutely none. As you said, they're bulletproof, but they should be. They've been out here, what now, 4 or 5 years under the French team of Oreca or Oreca, depending on how you want to pronounce it. And in Europe, they are badged as a Chrysler Viper, not a Dodge Viper as they are in the United States. You see all the smoke coming off of the front brakes. They're inspecting them right now. Let's see if when the fueling is completed, if this car comes up. You know, I misspoke earlier when I said they had improved fuel economy. I meant to say 2 laps per stop advantage over what they had last year. And here that would be 17 miles per stop. Even if the Vettes match them on lap times, they can't match them in the area of economy.
And a very effective stop as well, as they are out on course. And I want to grab a quick email answer here, Ellen. First of all, this is a question that I think you could do some real justice to. It comes from Marshall, and it is, do you think you can we compare some of the lap times or speeds of previous cars, like for instance a 917, to what we're seeing from the Audis this year? And obviously that's on a vastly different track as well.
Yes, well, it was, because the 917s ran here in '69 when they were very new. 1970, when they won, of course, that was Porsche's first ever win with Dickie Atwood and Hans Hermann. And then they won again in 1971. That was Helmut Marko and Guys van Lennep in 917s. Those cars were incredibly fast, but actually remarkably easy to drive. The 4.5 and 5-litre flat 12 Porsche engines, very, very torquey indeed. But they had no kind of download in comparison to modern cars. Underbody air management was little known about at the time, and so those cars with their aluminium tubular space frames were relatively crude. They ran on the old circuit with the Maison Blanche, in which we've done a piece on here. They were very quick. I think that Jackie Oliver did the fastest ever lap round here, about 3:13 point something in practice, which equated to 155 mile-an-hour average. That's with no chicanes on the straight. That's without the Porsche curves. That's coming straight through Whitehouse. So the 917s were quick cars. The 512s, Ferraris, were quick as well, but not as quick as that. Today's cars, I am afraid, although they may not have the top speed, would be quicker purely because everything else has moved on. Air management under the car gives them more download. They've got far better brakes. They're much more comfortable. And I have to say, the breed of driver that comes here is a sort of younger, fitter person than they used to be.
Well, there you have it. I hope that answers your question, Marshall, and thanks for sending us the email. You're watching the number 8 Audi, just continuing in the hands of Emanuele Pirot to lead comfortably here. We have a guest who has stopped by, and glad to see him always, Hugh Chamberlain. Hugh, first of all, how are things going? You're with Team Go this year, and how are things going?
Well, good evening or good morning, and whatever time of the day it is. It's good to see you guys. It's not going too badly, actually. Now we had a major problem the other night. We lost 4 of the cylinders, which is still leaves 6. but it didn't work terribly well on only 6. And it took the best part of an hour to find the gremlin in amongst the electrics and the wiring, and when it was found, we managed to put it together again, but we did lose an hour, which is a bit of a problem. But it's going reasonably strongly now.
What's the story behind you being here with this team? Because I always think of you as a very staunch British privateer, and here you are running under a different banner. So what's the story behind that, Hugh?
Well, we're still privateer and we're still staunch. What it is that I noticed last year that there was a race in Fuji which qualified for Le Mans, and everybody else was in Las Vegas for the last round of the ALMS racing series. And so I thought, well, this might be quite a good idea to go to Japan because we had a very strong team and we had very strong cars, and if there was no competition, it was a reasonably good bet that we'd finish. And so it turned out. But as in the privateer bit, as opposed to the staunch bit, as a privateer, one has to find funding, and we found funding from a Japanese organisation, Mr. Go, who's involved with the Panoz teams, you know, and he helped us there, and so we ran with his name, and when we won, we got an automatic entry here, and with an automatic entry, you have to keep the name of the entrant.
Go is a great name for a motor racing team, isn't it?
It is. It has an H on the end of it, of course.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, he's a very, very nice guy. He supports a lot of young Japanese drivers, and he's here with some of those this weekend, and we're very happy to support him. But it is in fact our team, our car, because all we did was to use the engine.
Very important, these people.
One last quick question, though, before we go to break. Are you using the same drivers that you used in Japan?
No, we didn't have to, but that wasn't, luckily it wasn't part of the regulations, because Go-san wanted those drivers to drive his Panoz cars, and so it was.
Are you able to stay for just a little bit for another segment? That'd be absolutely great, because we're going to take a break here, and one of the reasons is Andrew Marriott is going to step in and handle the play-by-play for a little while, along with Linda Cadney and the rest, so we'll stop back in just a minute.
Welcome back to this very bright and sunny morning here at Le Mans in the south in France. It's 20 to 7 in the morning here. The sun is up and bright, and it's getting warmer all the time. And welcome to Andrew Marriott, who's come up from the pits where he was getting a bit bored wandering around. He's now going to sit down and take us through the play-by-play. And we still have Hugh Chamberlain with us, who was telling us all about why he's here with a Japanese entrant. Hugh, looking back to my old days here, whenever I came to Le Mans, I always had my eye on one day being able to win the thing outright. That's what gets you firmly in the history books. Am I right in thinking that somewhere in the back of your mind you have the same idea?
I don't think I'd want to get up in the morning without having ideas. Yes, for sure, you'd want to be at the sharp end of anything. If you're in sport, it doesn't matter what the sport is or what the part of motor racing, if that's your sport. As far as I'm concerned, I've had cars in category 2 for many years. That is in C2 in the Group C days, and in GT2 when it was GT2, and now with GTS, which are obviously second in speed to the LMP cars. But yes, for sure, I'd love to have an LMP car here that was capable of winning a motor race.
There's something about this place, isn't there, that just continually attracts us Brits and Americans and just about every other nationality, especially the Japanese, of course. You have to come here because it's one of the ultimate challenges. If you're not a mountain climber, Everest and K2 and Annapurna don't appeal to you, you come to Le Mans.
I know. It is an extraordinary place. I mean, because, I suppose, in part because of the fantastic weather we've had this week, you cannot move anywhere in this place. I mean, there are thousands and tens of thousands of people. It's extraordinary how people do support the race. But when it comes to the teams, then I don't know. I don't think anybody really knows how many teams did try and get here in the first place. But I understand the rumours are there were about 104 teams tried to get entries this year. I'm very pleased to be one of those teams, and we've supported it for many, many years. We normally have 2 cars. This year we just have the one, but there are an awful lot of people who are disappointed and can't get here at all. And so when you think that you're happily a regular at Le Mans, one has already achieved quite a bit, I suppose.
Yeah, I agree. I see only the healthiest future for this race, with manufacturers just clamouring to get involved. Don't you think so, Andrew?
Oh, yes, absolutely. And we do hear of new British teams coming in. We'll talk more about that perhaps a little bit after the break. But at the moment, of course, it is Audi first, Audi second, Audi third, then a Cadillac, then a Panoz, then a Courage, then a Panoz, and then another Courage.
We're back here, live at Le Mans, and I can tell you the pilot in me can see for miles and miles, maybe 20 miles of visibility. There's a light wind, it's ideal for flying. Well, we're not flying here in the booth, but the Audi certainly are, first, second and third. And Andrew, I think we can have an update on how the American cars are standing here.
Well, the best of the American cars is fourth after those 3 Audis. That's the number 3 car of Eric Bernard, Emanuele Collard and Frank Montagny. That's in 4th place. In 7th place is the Kageyami brothers with Toshio Suzuki in their Panoz. That's currently lying 7th. In 9th place, the GTS leader of Beretta, Wendlinger and Dupuis in their Viper. And then 10th, and the best placed American driver, Tommy Archer, of course, with Mark Dewis and Patrick Heisman in their Viper. Well, we were talking with Hugh about British teams, and of course not much British representation this year, and only 7 British drivers in the race. But there are lots of rumours, Hugh, that maybe even MG will come back next year, because the Lola manufacturing racing car company has actually bought part of the Rover car company, and I know that Martin Pirenne has already had talks. He put some of the money together to buy Rover. There's also rumours that Aston Martin will come back, and of course VW own Bentley now, and there's talk that VW use the Bentley brand to come here. Next year we have a lot more Brits, a lot more Union Jacks, and 3 British makes. Hugh, your comment?
Yeah, well, I've heard all the rumours, but I'm a bit phlegmatic about these things. I'm never convinced that any of these rumours actually might happen, but it would be tremendous if they did, because there aren't at the moment any. There are very many British-made sporting touring cars, but there aren't many that can actually be very fast sports racing cars. And it would be very nice if somebody did actually make something that we could put together.
Yes, of course, with the MG situation, they could just badge a Lola. I believe they're talking about putting a top on. Martin Pirenne told me he's put 3 different plans to the board of Rover to come here to Le Mans. So they really are talking about it.
Well, it'd be great. I mean, I spoke to Martin, but of course he wouldn't say an awful lot to me as to whether or not it'd be a good idea to have an MG badge motorcar. But yeah, it would. I'd hope they make the car prettier, though, wouldn't you?
Well, yes, one would hope so. Interesting email we've just had, incidentally, coming in. And Alan knows about this because he's had lady drivers in his team in the past. This email saying, I was wondering how many women in the past have raced at Le Mans. And this is from Stephanie Jacobs and Jessie Bloomfield from Canada.
The answer is an awful lot of women have raced at Le Mans, especially in the 30s. They're very popular for the ladies to come over here and have a race. Latterly, perhaps not quite as many as they should have had. The lady I drove with was called Desiree Wilson, and she's the first and only woman that ever won World Championship sports car races. I won with her at Monza and Silverstone, then we brought her here to Le Mans. Unfortunately, she had a big old accident in practice and took the wheels off all 4 corners and wasn't able to start the race, but she was a remarkably fine lady driver. In fact, the girls that come to Le Mans are racing drivers that are highly capable, usually, that happen to be girls. We don't particularly look at girls as being any different from the men when it comes to driving race cars. Either they can or they can't. So the answer to the question is an awful lot of girls have come here, but no woman has ever yet won the race. But women have won their class before. There were a couple of girls won their class. They came from America in a Porsche 911, I remember, back in the 70s. I forget the names, but the girls have done good here, that's for sure.
Yeah, the last girl we had here, I think, was last year, Claudia Hertgen. I'd like to thank Hugh Chamberlain very much for joining us here in the booth. Thank you, Hugh. Back to your team. I think they probably need you.
Yeah, thanks, Hugh.
Thank you.
Yes,
Well,
we're going to the Corvette leaderboard now. We have the Audis first, second and third. The Cadillac number 3, the DAMS car, is in 4th position, doing very well indeed. And then we have the Chryslers, 1, 2 and 3, leading the GT category. We'll be back soon. Back here at Le Mans, the lead Audi, car number 8, has just made a very routine pit stop in, full of fuel and out again. These cars are really running like clockwork, I think, Andrew. It isn't a foregone conclusion. Plenty of time left to go, but they're certainly doing very well indeed. Yeah, with the sun up now, you see everyone's getting back into their daylight stride, and it's a very comforting thing for these teams to know. They've come through the tricky portion during the night. Headlights can fail, alternators fail, things can go wrong. Everyone who's running now has been given like a fresh fillip. It's like having a nice cup of thick black coffee. It really perks you up because they all know that they can actually keep going, and if they do keep going, they're going to hopefully finish this race.
Yes, Alan, well, of course, one man who has seen the night come through and is hoping for big things today is, of course, Reinhold Jost. And Reinhold Jost's car's going so very well. The 3 Audis, of course, run by him, and they're running like absolute clockwork at the moment. And still the number 8 car in the lead from the 9 and the 7.
Yes, Reinhold Jost, he really is the master tactician of this race. Absolutely the most brilliant tactician. Him and John Wire, perhaps the greatest tacticians that ever came to this great 24-hour race. In 1996, this is the Fiat-sponsored car. There are his worshippers up on the podium there. He won that race. This is the night. These are the GT1 Porsches in front here. Look how excited they all get. Jost at his best. Davy Jones up there on the podium, he was the winner. And then in 1997, of course, well, that's the factory GT1 Porsche which blew up and it caught fire, and so Alboreto took the win. There's Christensen there having his first outing, his first win, and Stefan Johansson in the middle there. And just look at the car. And there he is, the man himself, the master tactician. We'll be back shortly, don't go away.
Yes, well, let's look at the times that the Audis are doing at the moment. Fastest out there currently is the number 9 car, lapping in 3:37. That's pretty speedy, you know. They really did just about 3:35, 3:36 in qualifying, so that car very much on the pace of the number 9 car. That is the fastest car out there at the moment. The other 2 cars, well, they're just a couple of seconds slower than that, but we've got just about 1 lap between the 8 and 9 car, the first and second place car, and then the number 7 car that is on now the same lap as the number 9 car. You know, Alan, I think any of these Audis could still win this thing.
Yeah, that's absolutely right, Andrew, but not only could they all want to win it. So for me, this race is going to get very, very interesting indeed when maybe team orders are either A, adhered to, or B, there aren't any team orders at all, or C, they all cut loose and start racing each other. There will come a point, I suppose, where that could happen, because McNish and his guys are really super anxious to win this, but then so are the other teams as well, because let's face it, a win at Le Mans doesn't harm anybody's career.
I've got a theory about this, actually. I think the management's favoured car is actually the one that's in the lead. Frank Biela and Emanuele Pirro have driven for Audi for a long time. No question of doubt, Biela is their favourite son, and they've got Tom Christensen with him. Obviously, he isn't a regular. But the others, of course, don't, I should say, have such a good history with Audi. So I think when push comes to shove and Dr. Wolfgang Ulrich has to make a decision, which I think will probably be about 12 o'clock, they'll say, if that number 8 car is in the lead, they're going to say, you stay there, guys, you can't challenge it.
Well, I think that could possibly be the case. I mean, we've known from the history of this race that when you get powerful teams that come here and they have to make a decision about who wins it, then there are such things as favourite sons, there are such things as honouring those who've given good service. It's a reward, if you like. OK, you've done well for us, you've worked hard for us, we've had disappointments perhaps in the past, but this is one for you, why don't you take the win? Yeah, and particularly with Frank Biela, you know, he's won many, many different touring car championships, all with Audi Quattros, because we should point out that this Audi is 2-wheel drive. So many successful Audis in the past, both in rallying and then subsequently in racing, have had 4-wheel drive. Of course, in the Speed Vision Challenge, of course, the Derek Bell car, that has 4-wheel drive. I should just point out, by the way, here is the leader in the GTS class. This is the Viper number 51 into the pits for what I think is just a basically routine stop.
Carl Wendlinger just squeezing in there. Carl Wendlinger, of course, whose Grand Prix career came to a halt to that shuddering stop there with at the chicane. And I think maybe Guy Hobbs is down there. Guy, you watching this?
I'm watching this very closely. It seems like a fairly routine stop. Carl Wendlinger is getting into the vehicle. They have a couple of rotors laid out on the pit lane. I don't know if we're going to see those get changed. Actually, they've taken away. No, they are going to make some changes there. And the fuel is all in, so now they can go to work. The fronts are off, and obviously now they go to the backs, and they're going to replace the rear tyres while they wait for the disc and rotors to be changed up the front. Of course, these things red hot. Big chunks of rubber coming out the back left-hand side of the GTS leader right now. Carl getting settled in. Just a quick point, too, for our audience who are used to the Daytona 24-hour course. This race in Daytona would nearly be over. Of course, now in Le Mans, where we get the 4 o'clock start, we still got a long, long way to go in this race. Now the left-hand side, they have changed. No work done on the right-hand side yet.
That's a cast-iron rotor, isn't it? I can see there, Guy. That doesn't have carbon fiber brakes, this car. Of course, not allowed in the regs.
No, and off comes, oh, bit of a trouble there. The heat, steaming heat of these brake pads, they get ripped off. And the rotor's right behind him. They're going to try and get that rotor, and new pads on. In the meantime, while they have this time, they're taking the time to do a real good job of cleaning that windshield. The car is absolutely filthy, covered in muck. And new rotors go on, new pads, and we'll wait to get that right front. And Carl Wendlinger sitting patiently in the car, ready to get back out. Of course, his teammate on the same lap. But of course, the 52 car may also have to change rotors and pads too. And here goes the right front. They've got it on. That's pretty quick change. Not bad work down here by the Team Oreca Viper team. And Carl Wendlinger should be pulling out of the pits here any second. Down off the jacks, starts up the motor, gets the signal, and he is off, driving up into what is now a bright pit lane and some beautiful sunshine. We'll back up to you.
Yeah, thanks very much, Guy. The Audis do continue to lead this race, of course. First, second and third, as they have been for most of the race. Of course, Panoz did push ahead for a little bit. Now it is Audi's first, second and third. The Cadillac is fourth. Panoz fifth.
Welcome back, everybody, to Speed Vision's live coverage of the 24 Hours of Le Mans. And this is the all-conquering GT number 83 car owned by Dick Barber. And it's come in for two things: a change of drivers, Dirk Mueller going in, and a scheduled change of brakes. They are flat worn out. They didn't even hesitate. They didn't even look at them. They knew they were shot, pulled right into the pits. They have got about a 5-lap lead in the class. Even more dominant here than they were at Sebring. So all in all, things couldn't be better for Dick Barber. But he just looked at me and used the old fat lady analogy. He's not getting cocky one bit, guys.
Yeah, Steve, I'll tell you something interesting. We had Dick Barber up here in the booth a little earlier on, and he said that one of his tweaks that he had got on his own car was special brakes. He wasn't running regular brakes, he was running special brakes. Now, they were a bit of a secret. We don't quite know what they were, but he was not expecting to have to change pads or rotors, and from what you've just told us, that's precisely what he has had to do, which leads me to believe that his drivers are obviously stepping on the brakes more violently than he was supposing. So in fact, that could be a bit of a problem for them. But however, they are well over halfway through the race. So on the old axiom that if your brakes were new at the start of the race and you've gone way over half distance, they should at least last for the rest of the race, don't you think, Andrew?
Yeah, absolutely. Just looking at that Porsche list there and those various GT3 Porsches, still a battle going on for fifth place. The David Murray car, remember, having early problems, is battling away with the number 75 car. Only 36 seconds, I should say, separating those two. There is Kato there sitting in his car, or Kato we should say, and the clock just coming up now to 7 o'clock here in Western France. This race just plows on and on. We're going to go through a very, very hot late morning and early afternoon here, heading towards, of course, Alan, that 4 o'clock finish, and it is still the Audis 1, 2, 3 here at Le Mans. We're taking you all the way through to the end of this great motor race. And I think we can now go back to Steve in the pits.
Go by your average brake shop and tell them you want pads on all 4 corners, and you want them in about 4 minutes. they'll laugh you right out of the joint. Not so with the Dick Barber crew. What an amazing job. They did not have to change calipers or discs, Alan, just pads.
Well, I'm pleased to hear that. At least the disc stood up to it then, but I guess the pedal got a bit spongy. The brakes probably started to fade a little. That's obviously a sign of the brake material getting down to the backing pad. So as you say, Steve, that was a good job, whipping out all those pads and changing them. I don't know what sort of calipers he's got on there. I think he may have those 6-pot calipers. They are very, very effective, of course, and that may be one of the major advantages of this car. Dick, certainly, being the old tactician that he is, he's a crafty old entrant, and he probably has got something like those 6-pot calipers on there to help them out.
Incidentally, Alan, that David Murray, Johnny Molan, Sasha Masson car has just moved up to 5th place on the last lap. So a big battle going. That car is going quite a bit quicker than some of the others in the class if they yet move up quite a few places.
Yeah, we should see some good infighting going on in that GT3 class because it's very, very competitive. And, of course, it's a very prestigious prize to win. And at the moment, Dick Barber's scheduled to take it.
Yes, well, we still have the lead, of course, of the Audi. 229 laps down. The second Audi has 228 laps. And then the number 7 car has 227 laps. There's plenty to play for here at Le Mans.
We're back here at Le Mans live, and we're going to take you the whole way through now to the end of this race. 4 o'clock in the morning here. 7 o'clock in the morning here. It'll finish at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And we'll join, I think, Guy, who's down there with the Corvette pit stop.
Yeah, I think that's Chris Neifel there who's waiting. And Guy Hobbs, are you there?
I am here. We're waiting. Chris just gave us a little wave because I've known Chris for some time. One of the tallest guys, actually, in racing. You may remember some of the days from before, actually, Andrew and Alan, that he's actually had some cars where he's had to have developments made and little extra roof sections put in to get his helmet in because he is so tall. A rookie here at Le Mans, racing in the 63 Corvette, and they are currently in 16th position. He's anxiously awaiting. He's got his bottle by his feet, which he'll go in. Ron Fellows is in the car right now. The crew's all ready to go. And I was actually looking around the crew, and they look remarkably sprightly, considering it is 7 o'clock in the morning. They've been at this for a long, long time now, but they're keeping this Corvette in there, and they're hoping for a repeat, of course, of the 24 hours where they got down to a great battle between the Vipers and the Corvettes right at the end of the race. So
yes, of course, when you have got a pit stop coming like that, you know it's coming. The driver gets himself ready, he's got his helmet on, he's got his balaclava on, he's got his gloves on, he's all ready to go, and they're waiting for the car to come on by, and it will be going flat out at racing speeds, of course, until it gets in the pit lane, and then it has to slow down and creep in at 50 kilometers an hour. That's about, what, under 30 miles an hour, Andrew?
Yeah, if I could just cut in on our screen, of course, the number 12 car. I think Johnny O'Connell at the wheel there, that Panoz going back. I wonder if it's got another reoccurrence of that transmission problem.
Yes, that seems to be the Achilles heel of the Panoz this year. They're obviously chewing the gears up there, but at least they've got the spares. They can pull the clusters out, as we've seen, fairly quickly. And here's the number 63 car in the pits now. And Guy, I think you're right down there where the action is.
Absolutely right here. Ron Fellows climbing out with a Canadian maple leaf on his helmet. Chris Neifel gets in. Ron's also a fairly big guy, but Chris probably one of the tallest in racing, along with Tommy Kendall, of course, racing in a 60 Conrad car right now. Fuel going in fairly enough. The guys are waiting to change the tyres, and no rotors, no pads laid out on this one, we just saw on the Vipers. So it'll be a little bit quicker stop for these guys. Ron now helping Chris in the car. Chris has got his bottle all settled. They'll reset all the meters. They got because they always have the reminder board to reset all the levels, reset all the fuels, and then they get the notice to crank it up. Then they get the notice it's going to be 5 seconds before you pull out. Left rear guy having no problem, because these wheels, don't forget everybody, they've been doing this over and over again every about 12 laps, and these wheels and tyres weigh up to about 70 pounds. It's not an easy thing for these guys. They've been doing this all night, so they're getting pretty exhausted at doing this. Now they go to work on the right front, left front, door is shut, air jack should come down, they'll get the signal to start the motor up. Looks like there's a bit of a problem with the right rear. Okay, they're all clear and done. Here goes the engine. I'm going to get a face full of dust on them. And Chris Neifel will get back out on the track after he gets down to the end of the pit lane at 60 kilometers per hour.
Well, at least it started up all right. That makes a change. I mean, it's always a moment there when your car comes into the pits and all that heat can get sucked into your starter motor. It may jam up on you, which has already happened to them once.
On Wednesday, we watched that team participate in a very interesting exercise, in fact, with the ACO on extracting a driver from a car. Kelly Collins was the mug who actually decided to get involved with this, and let's just have a look at this piece now.
I must say, I've never seen you look worse. What was that about?
Well, I made a small mistake yesterday in the race car, and that's the team's way of making, that's the big payback right there. That was for extracting a race car driver from a race car, and they needed a test dummy or a lab rat, and I guess I'm the one. I had no idea what that would entail. I thought it was going to be how quickly you could get out of the race car, but it was how quickly they could get you out of a race car with a neck brace.
It looked like you were in pretty good shape when you stepped in the car, but I'm not sure now. How'd you feel?
Well, I guess you're pretending, or they were pretending that you're passed out, so it doesn't matter where they grab or how tight they pinch you. So I was kind of, yapping every once in a while.
So that's your incentive to behave, I take it.
I don't ever want to be near one of those things again.
It didn't look very well, did he?
No, I've never seen anything like that in my life before. He must have felt pretty strange. On the other hand, you have to compliment the old ACO here, because at least they've got the foresight to think about how they're going to get a wounded driver out of the car, and that's great practice for them. Let's hope they don't actually ever have to do it for real.
Yeah, let's hope so. A tall driver at that. So Audi's still lead. They're 1, 2 and 3, but let's not forget the Cadillac is in 4th place on 223 laps. So Cadillac still in the hunt, and Panoz, they're still there. They're in 5th place ahead of the Courage and another Panoz. All to play for at Le Mans.
Boy, it is certainly a beautiful, lovely, bright, sunny day here. The sun's well up in the heavens, and I can tell you that there's a light breeze blowing, but otherwise everyone's very happy here. And I think, Steve, you've got something for us.
Well, almost everyone is very happy here. I think you can tell by the countenance of one. Johnny O'Connell, things aren't going well. The number 12 Panoz soldiered through the night. Now you're out of the car, it's in the garage. What's the deal?
We've just been having gearbox problems. I mean, this is the second time we lost a gear earlier, replaced the gear pack, and we were losing 4th gear again, and now we've got something else going back there. So it was something we were going to have to stop for, and I think it's a big replacement here. So this place ain't easy.
Are you hopeful of getting back on the racetrack?
Oh yeah, I mean, we'll get back out. The problem is we went from where we were 4th when I went to sleep. Now you wake up, a couple hours later, and a whole bunch of problems are presenting themselves. But that's one of the challenges of Le Mans, and we'll do our best to carry on.
Actually, what he had was a nightmare. Let's go down to Guy with Ron Fellows.
Just stepped out of the Corvette, looking very refreshed and lively. It's not too bad, but Ron, compare this to Daytona. You had a great battle with the Vipers in Daytona. You're staying in touch with them right now. But in Daytona, for example, there'd only be 5 hours to go. You guys got a long way to go yet.
No, that's the good news. Unfortunately, we broke a transmission a couple hours ago. But we kind of knew this place was going to be tough on gearboxes, more so than Daytona. What are you going to do? It happens. And the guys did an unbelievable job. I think they had it in and out in about 9 minutes. They just, all the guys at Pratt Miller just working their butt off. And when you're out there driving, the sun's a bit of a rejuvenator. So we'll just keep plugging.
Now, at this point, there's a lot less traffic out on the track, but how is the track in general? How's it feeling now, especially with the sun coming back up?
It's not too bad, but it's actually kind of a difficult place to pass because it's so narrow. When you catch up, behind a GT3 car or whatever, it's not. And all it takes is one car, and mess up the lap. But that's same for everybody. It's certainly thinner than it's been, that's for sure.
How about when you're out there pushing your car earlier?
Nothing else to do but go try and go fast.
All right, Ron, well, good luck to you. Hope you stay in contact with the Vipers and come down to a great American battle.
Boy, Well, I hope so too. Thanks.
All right, good luck, mate. Back up to you guys.
Yes, that Ron is a very, very quick man indeed, and he just loves to drive. You can hardly get him out of the car. But I think he and Chris and Justin are doing a great job there for Corvette. When you consider, Andrew, that this is the first time these guys have visited the South. I mean, Justin's driven here before, of course, but both Chris and Ron are rookies here, and the car's a rookie as well. They're hanging in there. They're putting up a very, very good show for their first appearance.
Yes, and there are a lot of vet fans, you know, in Europe. A lot of vet fans are around, particularly in Holland. They're big into Corvettes there. There are people here that just love this race. Really, the fans make the race, Alan. Well, at the front of the field, it is still the Audis. Audi number 8 continues to lead on 233 laps. Audi number 9, it's 2 laps behind at the moment, but it is the fastest car out on the racetrack. Then in third position, there's the number 7. We say the lucky number 7, but currently third. That is on the same lap as the 9 car. So 2 laps for the first 3. Then another couple of laps back is the best of the Cadillacs. That's, of course, the DAMS car. And then that Panoz is shown as having completed 219 laps, but certainly isn't doing that at the moment. On our screen at the moment, I just saw a flash of our leader, the number 8 Audi. Just trying to see who it is at the wheel of this car now, Alan.
Yes, I can't pick his helmet up from this far away there, but he's coming down the Mulsanne straight into the, I think...
It's Capello.
It's Capello, yes, absolutely right. And, of course, they're not
It's not
cruising.
Capello, it's Pirro, sorry. Get these, all these Italians
Pirro,
for those
yes.
at the end.
That was the second chicane on the Mulsanne straight that they're coming out of, and they don't seem to be having too much of a problem. I don't know what that is. That's not a very nice sight, slightly frightening. I wouldn't want to see that if I was coming into fuel, would you?
No, that's how my eyes feel at the moment, having been in the pits for most of the night. But still, it's that Audi Panzer brigade there in first, second and third places. But a Cadillac is still fourth, a Panoz still fifth.
And here we are, back at Le Mans, live. And I think, Steve, you've got something for us down there in the pits again.
Well, Alan, I don't think we have Steve just at the moment. I am noticing on the screen that one of the fastest cars out there is actually the Courage C60. That's that speedy car we were talking about, the speedy back car with the Judd engine. That's lapping in 3:42, only 3 seconds off the pace of the Audis at the front.
Yeah, I think they've been pacing themselves, basically, just to see how the car would go. And they've got through the night now. They're feeling confident. Obviously, the engine's on song. They haven't had any gearbox problems. The car's handling nicely. They're upping the pace a bit. They're upping the pace because they know they can, and that's a very encouraging thing.
Alan, maybe we can just do one of these emails here. This is an interesting one from Spyro Kakutis in Toronto. Do the cars at Le Mans run the same fuel as that in the ALMS, or is it a blend required by the ACO? Now, we know that all the fuel comes from the same source. Just explain how it's all piped around the pits here.
Yes, the way they work it here at Le Mans is that there is an enormous whacking great fuel bowser out the back, and that is filled up with a fuel to the ACO specification. I am not too sure who supplies it. I think Elf probably do. They certainly used to. And that is piped all around the pit so that every competitor gets absolutely the same fuel. It comes through a filter, it goes through a meter, and it goes into the car. So there can be no argument, really, amongst any of the competitors about the brew that they're using in their cars.
So all the people on the same fuel, do you have to actually pay for it?
Well, I'm not too sure what the deal is. I've got the feeling that, yes, indeed, you do have to pay for the fuel. But obviously, if you have a fuel contract, then your fuel contractor will be paying for your fuel that you use. So if you are a Shell contracted person, like the Audis, then Shell pick up the bill for the fuel.
Alan, we've got full coverage around the circuit now. I've been watching little Alan McNish here, just diving past one of the GT Porsches there. I think it's the Yokohama back car. And this is such an interesting circuit because some of it is private racetrack, but a lot of it, of course, is public road, and that leads to all kinds of problems. For a start, you see the white lines in the middle of the road there, and then you get all kinds of different ridges across the road. And really, this is a circuit where you have to set up the car quite softly to get the drive out of the corners, because often you're getting the drive out of the corners over virtually the ridges which are made by the trucks.
Well, that's absolutely right. Don't forget, this place is only closed down, this long circuit, for the test weekend, for official practice here, and for this actual race. So that you're right, those big truck grooves that get left in the road are something you have to cope with. And when it gets really hot and sticky, all kinds of nasty stuff can bubble up out of the ground. And Steve, I think we finally got you down in the pits there.
These Viper pit stops are so well organized, I hate to say this, but they're almost boring. They've done so many thousands of pit stops in actual competition, and who knows how many in practice, that it's just such a well-oiled machine. I mean, a Broadway choreographer couldn't make them any prettier than they are. Everybody has a job. There's absolutely no conversation. Driver change going on here. This is the car running third right now in the sequential order at the head of the GTS pack. But all in all, you really got to take your hat off to Chrysler and to Oreca for the monumental job they have done, dominating this class all over the planet.
Yes, they certainly are dominating that class. We have talked about the battle between the Corvettes and the Vipers, but the truth is that the Vipers are now quite a way ahead of the Corvettes. I'm not saying we haven't had a great result here from the Corvettes. It is their first time here. I'm sure they will be able to challenge the Vipers in the future. It's been part of their learning curve, but the Audi's still at the front, Alan.
Yes, the Audi's at the front, and in fact the Chryslers leading the GTS class are 10th, 11th, and then the third Chrysler, in fact, is down in 14th place, but they're running very, very strongly. I can't see Corvettes making too much impression on them.